Alright, so hello.
Hello.
This is going to be your speaking mock test, and as you know, this test has 3 different parts, and I'm going to tell you what to do in each part. So in the first part of the test, I'd just like to ask you some questions about yourself. So do you work now, or are you still a student?
Now I have been working for the Ministry of Justice of Vietnam for 10 years.
And what do you enjoy most about your job?
I would say that my job is very meaningful working experience, and I love my job because I think I would contribute something to my country. So you know, Vietnam is a developing country, so we need to improve our legal system to match with the pace of our economic growth, and we also need to set a better framework in the future so people can enjoy the better living conditions.
Alright, now let's move on and talk about car trips. Do you like to travel by car?
Yeah, I travel by car many times, and I think traveling by car is one of the most convenient means to enjoy the trip. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
Where is the farthest place that you have traveled to by car?
I travel from Hanoi to my mother hometown in Quảng Nam province. It takes me many hours, almost a day. I drove like constantly to reach the destinations, and when I get there, I feel very happy because I go back to my mother hometown and I feel the fresh air of getting away from the pressures of living in a big city like Hanoi. Yeah.
Now let's move on and talk about museums. Do you often visit museums?
To be honest, I only visit there for several times because I love history, but I don't have enough patience to walk into every corner of the museum. You know, museum is so big and have a lot of information, and it often takes you like at least a day to discover and understand all every corners of the museum. So I often search information and read about the history to books or on the internet.
Are there any museums in your hometown?
There's many museums in my hometown. But I'm not really impressed in any.
Alright, now let's move on to the second part. So in this part, I'm going to give you a topic and you have to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. But before that, I'm going to give you 1 minute to think of what you're going to say. So here is a piece of paper and a pen that you can use.
I will tell you a story about my sister who started her own business at the age of 40s. In the past, she was a civil servant who worked at the local government, but at the age of 40s, she realized that she was not really interested in working for the government anymore because their working conditions were boring, and she didn't get enough money and salary to foster her 2 children. So she decided to start her own business, to start a new life, and the business she decided to make is a grocery mini mart, in which she sells like organic products for the neighborhoods. And somehow, in a short time, she earned the credibility of the neighbors, and she sells a lot of groceries for many people. And I think that she made a good business because she's not only get enough money for her family, but also she provides good products for the communities. So her community can enjoy better products and getting a better health. I think so.
Alright, thank you. That ends part 2 as well as your speaking test. Right? So at this moment, I'm going to give you some comments regarding the first 2 parts of the test, parts 1 and 2. So let's talk about each of the criteria of the speaking test as well. There are 4 different criteria. You've got fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. I would like to talk about pronunciation first. So the good thing about this performance is that I could clearly understand everything that you are saying, and you're actually using high-level pronunciation features such as intonation and sentence stress as well. However, there are some words that actually have final S sound when in fact there shouldn't be any final S sound there, such as informations and at the age of 40s. So those 2 different words have final S sound when in fact there shouldn't be any. Alright, so that's for pronunciation. Maybe we just need to be mindful of the final sounds of some words. As for grammatical range and accuracy, so I did not hear any significant error in your grammar. And the good thing is that you have tried to use a variety of verb tenses naturally. I think you're not really thinking of the verb tenses that you should be using. Let's say, for instance, in the first topic when I asked you about your job, and then you have used a less common verb tense such as present perfect continuous tense correctly, like I have been working there for this amount of time. And in part 2, you're able to use, you shifted from using the past tense to the present tense, and you're able to use that appropriately with no noticeable mistake as well. So grammatical range and accuracy is good. As for lexical resource, it's also good, but there are some parts when the word choice is incorrect. So let's say, for instance, in part 2, when you said, finally, she earned the credibility of her neighbors. Credibility is a really less common word. It's a C-level vocabulary, but you have not used it correctly. You said she earned the credibility of her neighbors, when in fact it should be she earned the trust of her neighbors, and she gained credibility. Yeah, she gained credibility, so she got or earned the trust of her neighbors. But regardless of that mistake, you have tried using a lot of less common collocations as well, like legal system, economic growth, foster her children, meaningful, and you have used them appropriately and accurately, so that's a good thing. As for fluency and coherence, you tried to speak at length for every topic that I asked you, and you tried to use different cohesive devices, but I have noticed that there is still some hesitation. The thing is, in IELTS speaking, there are 2 different ways of, there are 2 different types of hesitation. We've got language-related and content-related hesitation. And the hesitation that you have was content-related, which means you hesitated to think of the ideas, not to think of the vocab, not to think of the grammar or the pronunciation, but the ideas. Especially in part 1, when I asked you about car trips, and you stopped for a while to think of like maybe how many hours you traveled from your, let's say, here to your mother's hometown, when in fact you don't need to give the specific details in order not to lose your fluency and coherence. Yes. So those are the things that I have observed in your performance. But all in all, it was a really good performance with only minor mistakes that could still be improved.